guest speaker today is someone who brings both professional expertise and powerful lived experience to the conversation. Adith Thumalapalli is a valued member of our board of directors and a passionate advocate for accessibility, universal design, and disability rights. In addition to his work with Coordinating Center, Adith is actively involved in advocacy efforts at the University of Maryland, where he champions ADA compliant initiatives and greater accessibility in higher education and public spaces. And today he's going to share his personal journey and speak about the importance of inclusive design, advocacy, and representation. Please join me in welcoming Adith.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you, Secretary Beatty and Kirkland, for your constant advocacy and support of people with disabilities. And thank you to all the co-workers of the Coordinating Center, fellow board members, for your constant commitment to supporting people with disabilities. And thank you everyone for joining us in celebrating a significant milestone in the disability space, the 35th anniversary of the signing of the ADA. A lot has transpired in 35 years to make the world a more accessible and inclusive place for people with disabilities, but we still have a lot of work to do. At its core, the ADA is a civil rights law, preventing discrimination on the basis of disability in most areas of public life. But the ADA would not exist without another civil rights law that needs to get the credit that is also due. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, signed in 1973. Section 504 prohibited discrimination on the basis of disability in institutions that receive federal funding, and the ADA expanded this to include all areas of public life, and state and local governments. And one cannot speak about the impact of Section 504 and the ADA without mentioning the widely regarded mother of the disability rights movement, the late Miss Judy Heumann. She was one of the key organizers of the 504 sit-in in 1977, which disability rights activists fought for the implementation of anti-discrimination rights granted to them under the Act. The two most notable protests occurred in Washington, D.C. and San Francisco. The protest in D.C. lasted about 25 hours. The protest in San Francisco, the one led by Judy, it lasted 25 days. Wow. For 25 days, protesters with disabilities sat in a building with limited food and water, just enough to survive, to fight for our rights and make sure we could participate in daily life. They sat in a building for 25 days with no physical assistance from caregivers, and I know all of you understand what an impact that is for a person with a disability, to fight for our rights and lay the groundwork for the ADA. That is their legacy. And the ADA has a special importance for me, both personally and professionally. Without the ADA, I would not be here right now speaking to you all about it. As a disabled American, who knows where I would be? Before the passage of the ADA or the Rehab Act, I very well could be shut in my home all day. Or, worse yet, be in some sort of institution. But I'm not. I'm free to live my life, just like each and every one of you are, just like each of the clients the Coordinating Center co-workers support every day are. But for me, it goes further than that. Without the ADA and the protections under it, I never would have become the advocate or the person that I am today, both at the professional and personal level. My day job as an infrastructure engineer for the city of Salisbury on the Eastern Shore of Maryland involves looking at plans for any sort of development to ensure compliance with federal regulations and building codes. My specific area of focus, ADA and other Maryland state laws that ensure accessibility. I will get into this momentarily, but I would not hold that position if not for my advocacy efforts in college at the University of Maryland, College Park, an institution I may not have been able to attend and graduate with a degree from, if not for these landmark pieces of legislation. I would not have been able to be a student if not for the rights and supports guaranteed to me by the ADA. As a student at Maryland, I undertook a project in 2018 and 2019 to document physical barriers to access on campus for people with mobility issues. I started there because it was something that affected me personally. My work actually began due to two main incidents. One was my inability to attend a close friend's birthday party in a dorm room that was falsely advertised as being accessible. And the second one was an out-of-order elevator in an academic building, which prevented me from attending class for 2 weeks. And if you all know, as in an engineering program, even 2 weeks is a huge deal to overcome as far as content that you need to learn. These incidents were both violations of the ADA, which I soon came to discover, and set me on a path that truly changed my life. Again, I would not be here right now without that. Long story short, I documented a number of ADA violations in terms of physical access on campus, took photos and showed exactly which ADA standards were being violated, and I described the current state of things and the ideal state of things. At the suggestion of a friend in the Student Government Association, I wrote these findings up into a report and presented it to university administration as the 2019 Campus Accessibility Report. This report was groundbreaking for two main reasons. Although previous accessibility audits, like this one, had been done on campus, this was, number one, the first one done by a student, and two, the first one to explain the current state, the ideal state, and here's the key, how to practically get from current to ideal. I took an engineer's approach to it, and it paid off. University administration at the time began working on plans to address these issues and began putting funding towards it. As we all know, it's all well and good to make plans, but those plans mean nothing without implementation. And implementation requires money. That's how our world works. Since 2019, every semester, I have given a lecture to engineering students as part of a course on engineering ethics about the responsibility of engineers, architects, and designers in making the world a more inclusive space. Not just accessible, inclusive. You may ask me, what's the difference? Well, I'll tell you what I've told those students for the past 13 semesters. Accessibility is the floor and inclusivity is the ceiling. Meaning, accessibility is the bare minimum required by laws like the ADA to be compliant and meet the basic needs of an individual with a disability in a public space. Often, as you all know, the bare minimum is not enough to be truly accessible, as access needs can vary with the individual and even contradict each other at times. For example, high contrast colors may be a sensory overload for one individual, but may be necessary for another individual to navigate a space. Inclusivity, on the other hand, has no real upper limit, besides making a space as usable as possible for as many people as possible. All people, regardless of ability. That's the mindset a designer should adopt. Design products and spaces to be inclusive of all people. Laws like the Rehab Act and the ADA are the floor, and they're supposed to be. They dictate the bare minimum, foundational, level playing field from which inclusive and universal design grows. After 2 semesters of giving this lecture, 5 years ago during COVID, I was invited to participate in the 30th anniversary celebration of the ADA at the University of Maryland. There I had the opportunity to moderate a session where the speaker was none other than Judy Heumann herself. Google University of Maryland ADA 30th anniversary and you can find the video if you'd like to watch. I highly recommend everyone watch it. She had some very moving things to say. This was the first public event viewed by people everywhere that I was able to speak at. And it catapulted me into the realm of disability advocacy in a way I didn't see coming. Now, I am humbled to be a member of 2 boards of disability support organizations, one being the Coordinating Center, of course, to be a member of my city's Disability Advisory Committee, and the vice president of a group of men with my condition, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, for an international nonprofit, a guest lecturer at my alma mater, and to be involved with various other organizations in a multitude of capacities. I have been to Capitol Hill numerous times to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities across the US, and none of that would have been possible without the ADA. But we still have a long way to go. Having a comprehensive piece of legislation has 1 or 2 drawbacks as well. The main one being that many people who do not live each day in the disability space don't see the ADA as the floor. They see it as the ceiling. They see it as the farthest they need to go to be considered accessible, and they stop there. The idea is to go farther, go as far as possible to make spaces that are created by us accessible. Go as far as you can to make even natural spaces accessible without destroying their natural beauty. It can be done. Take a look at Yellowstone National Park or Acadia National Park, which I was able to visit very recently. They've both done it incredibly well, preserve natural beauty as well as make it accessible for all people. The sky is the limit for making the world more inclusive for people with disabilities, and the ADA laid the groundwork over the past 35 years. But where will we go in the next 35? There are still areas of public life that are not accessible in a standardized manner, or not accessible at all. I would like to see these things addressed. Things like private residences, apartments, hotel rooms, and air and trade travel are the ones that come to mind immediately. Accessible hotel rooms and apartments do exist, but vary greatly in terms of what features they offer and are far from standardized, making it very hard for a person with a disability to know what they're getting. Air travel is notoriously inaccessible, and damage to mobility equipment is always a concern for people with disabilities. Many of us who use wheelchairs say, the chair is my legs, and without it, I can't be a functional human being. Risking damage by flying is not worth it to many, many people with disabilities. But implementing accessible measures takes time, and more importantly, money, which tends to be the largest barrier. Accessibility is only expensive when put in as an afterthought, however. If you plan from the beginning for access and inclusion, it tends to be quite a bit cheaper. I'd like to leave you all with a few parting words. Inaccessibility can prevent a person with a disability from fully enjoying a space, but accessibility will never impede a non-disabled person from doing the same. The disability community is a community anyone can join at any time, temporarily or permanently. And laws like the ADA and the Rehab Act are vital to ensure that people of all abilities can truly experience what the world has to offer and live their best lives. That is the impact of the ADA. Thank you all.
Adith, that was extremely powerful, and you have opened my eyes to so much more. And can I use the little bathroom example?
Of course.
Okay, alrighty. So we're talking, and he goes, well, it's a lot of times the students would recognize that a trash can next to a door as you go into a bathroom or coming in or out can block whether or not someone with a wheelchair can come in or out. And so it's a little thing like that, which is huge to someone with a disability, that I'm like, now every single bathroom I go into, I'm like, where's the trash can? Because I'm moving it over to the side. So thank you so much, Adith. Thank you. Alrighty.